My name is Marimila Montenegro, and I did my paper on how perceived stress levels differ international students and local students. Uh, Normally, in this research, it is said that international students uh, experience higher levels of stress due to different aspects that they have to cope with when they come to school, like difficulty finding a job, language barrier, housing, and weather. Difficulty finding a job is an important one because when you are not a US citizen, you cannot work off campus, so it's not always easy to find a job on campus. Language barrier because some people come from other countries, they don't speak English, and they have to learn the language and study in a different language. Housing because they have to find a good roommate, they have to find good people to live with, and the weather because there is people from other countries that come from hot countries that the weather is always warm, and they come to drastic temperatures like cold winter or a too hot summer. Local students experience less stress because they are already in their country, they know the system, and it's easy for them to handle college. Um, the research that I did, for the research that I did an interview with six questions asking 10 local students and 10 international students what were the difficult things or the hardest things they had to cope with when they came to college. The questions that I did to them were if they were international or local students, where country they're coming from, what school do they attend, what year level or what class level are they in, as an international student, what they consider has been the cause of stress in their college career. Um, for example, the ones that I mentioned before, the options are language barrier, difficulty finding a job, housing, and weather. And also, which has been the hardest year or class level for them. The results from my research were that in the group of international students, 60% chose language barrier as the hardest thing they had to cope with when they came to college. 30% indicated difficulty finding a job, and 10% indicated weather. In the group of local students, 50% indicated housing as most stressful, 40% said difficulty finding a job, and 10% said weather. Also about the question in which class or year level they were most stressed with, in the group of international students, 70% said freshman year and 30% said senior year. In the group of local students, 50% said that they were more stressed in their senior year and 20% said the freshman year. Also, 30% said they were more stressed in their junior year. So the results for this research, or the proof for the hypothesis that I got, one of the hypotheses was that international students experience more stress than local students. It has been shown that they experience stress, but they don't experience but one of them doesn't experience more stress than the other. They both experience stress, but they have different causes for it. Another hypothesis that I tested was that language barrier was the hardest aspect they had to cope with, and the other hypothesis was that international students experience different sources of stress than local students, which has proved that it is true because language barrier was the highest score that we got in international students, and in local students was the housing. So it is not true that one of them experienced more stress, but they both experience stress. The information about participants from the international students, 2 were from Ecuador, 4 from Brazil, and 4 were from Spain. In the local students, 5 were from Louisiana, 3 were from Florida, and 2 were from Texas. The surveys were sent by email after they signed their informed consent, and they were thanked for the participation in their survey.